All right, ready to dive into something that, on the surface, might seem kind of boring. Government spending, news subscriptions, that kind of stuff. But stick with us on this one because it gets wild. We're going down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, Elon Musk, and a whole lot of media drama.
Yeah, this story, it really highlights so much of what's going on right now. How transparent is our government, really? How easily does misinformation just spread? And how are news organizations even supposed to survive in this climate?
It's a lot. And today we're digging into articles about Politico, big name in political news. Well, there's some pretty serious accusations flying around about them getting improper funding from the government. Like, did Politico really misuse taxpayer money? That's the question we're looking at.
Exactly. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it all, but we also want to explore, the wider context. How do government agencies actually use these news subscriptions? Why did this specific claim blow up the way it did? And what does it all tell us about where the media is at today? So yeah, buckle up. This is a wild ride.
Okay, so let's start with what's going around. The rumor is that Politico got millions of dollars from USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, the agency that handles aid to other countries. The claim is that this money going to Politico, well, that's some kind of shady deal.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about grants or direct funding here. It was for subscriptions to Politico Pro. It's their premium service that a lot of government agencies use, not just USA. They use it to stay up to date on policy and get those deep dive analyses.
Right. But the internet, well, the internet loves a good conspiracy. And who better to throw fuel on the fire than Elon Musk? He hops onto Twitter and slams it as a huge waste of taxpayer money. I mean, gotta love how that guy always has something to say.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, right? He's been overseeing the Department of Government Efficiency, and he's been super vocal about cutting costs wherever possible. So when he tweets something like that, people definitely listen.
Oh, for sure. And then to make it even crazier, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt jumps into the Twitter fray too. She announces they're canceling $8 million worth of subscriptions to Politico. And then, get this, she says, and I quote, "The DOGE team is working on canceling those payments now." Wait, the DOGE team?
Hold on, the DOGE team, Dogecoin, the cryptocurrency Elon Musk is so into. What does that even have to do with government contracts? It's just weird.
Right, it's like we're talking about potential misuse of taxpayer money, some serious allegations, and then, Dogecoin. It's like this weird meme come to life. I don't know.
It really makes you think about the administration's messaging, that's for sure. But through all this social media chaos, something got lost plain old fact-checking.
Oh, totally. Reporters pretty quickly pointed out that those payments weren't just coming from USI. They were subscriptions from a bunch of different government agencies for Politico Pro, which, like you said, it's a pretty normal way for people in government to keep up with what's happening.
Exactly, and those subscriptions, they're not cheap, but they do give you a lot. I mean, Politico Pro. They're known for in-depth reports, analysis, and all the info that agencies need to do their work well.
And Politico themselves came out swinging, too.
Yeah.
Shutting down the whole conspiracy thing. They put out a statement, I'm quoting here, "Politico has never been a beneficiary of government programs or subsidies, not 1 cent, ever, in 18 years.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty clear denial there.
And they were right to point that out. Government agencies subscribe to their service just like businesses do. It's all about the information. So this whole thing, it got blown way out of proportion.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got a claim that's quickly debunked, a tech billionaire stirring things up on Twitter, and the White House press secretary making some interesting comments. So now what?
I think we got to zoom out, look at the bigger picture here. This isn't just about Politico, USAI, or even Elon Musk's tweets. This is about something bigger.
Yeah, there's something else going on here, I think.
Yeah.
This is just one piece of a larger story.
It's a symptom of this whole trend, right? People don't trust the media, and misinformation just spreads like wildfire, especially online.
And you know what? This isn't even the first time we've seen this kind of thing. Remember back in 2019 when the Trump administration tried to stop those federal agencies from subscribing to the Washington Post and the New York Times? Feels like targeting news subscriptions is becoming like a pattern.
Yeah, it makes you think. Are they trying to control what info is out there? What does that mean for a free press? If government agencies can't even subscribe to certain news sources, how can they stay informed? How can they make the right decisions?
And practically speaking, how are news organizations supposed to even survive? How are they supposed to do good reporting if they lose subscriptions from government agencies? What then?
That's a really good point. Traditional ways of making money in journalism, they're just not working as well as they used to. Print subscriptions are down, and making money online is tough.
Yeah.
So these specialized services like Politico Pro, they've become super important. They're what helps news organizations invest in good journalism.
But like the Politico story shows us, even these models can become targets. I mean, we see it all the time now, right? Any piece of information can be twisted to fit an agenda.
It's the world we live in now. Information overload, echo chambers online, political discourse is so polarized, it's hard to know what's true anymore.
Okay, so we've got the challenges facing news organizations, the spread of misinformation, and why media literacy is so important. But going back to Politico, what could happen because of all this? What does it mean for them and for other news outlets, too?
Well, for Politico, it's their reputation, right? Being at the center of a controversy like this, it does damage. Even if the claims were false, some people might still believe it.
Yeah, like they say, mud sticks, even when it shouldn't. But for other news organizations, though, think this will make government agencies think twice about subscribing.
It's possible. It might make them more careful about how they spend money on news. Even if those subscriptions are totally legitimate and valuable to their work, they might hesitate now.
And that would really be a shame. Because like we've been saying, those subscriptions are crucial for news organizations to keep doing that high-quality reporting we all need.
It really is a tricky situation.
Yeah.
We need reliable news, independent journalism to keep those in power accountable. But then just the act of funding that journalism, even through subscriptions, can cause so much controversy and suspicion.
It's a catch-22.
Hmm.
So how do we fix it? How do we make sure that news orgs have the resources they need, but also keep things transparent?
Well, we have to start by really talking about the role of journalism in a democracy. It can't just be about entertainment or getting clicks. It's about informing the public, holding those in power accountable, and giving a voice to all sorts of different perspectives.
Right. And that means we need to value in-depth reporting, investigations, and analysis, even if it costs money. We can't just expect to get all that for free.
Exactly, and that investment can come in different forms. You could subscribe to a news organization you trust, or donate to a nonprofit news outlet, or even just be mindful of where you get your news from. Make sure you're supporting sources that care about accuracy.
And it's not just about individuals, right?
Yeah.
Government and institutions play a part, too.
Absolutely. Public media needs government funding, and those funds have to be protected and used the right way. And we need to find ways to support local journalism, too. That's taken a big hit.
Local journalism is so important. It's the heart of our communities, keeping those local officials in check and letting us know what's happening where we live.
I couldn't agree more. And it's not just about money either. Media literacy education is so important too. We have to give people the skills to analyze info, spot biases, and just navigate the world of online news, which can be tricky.
We talked about that earlier, but it's worth repeating. Media literacy is crucial in the world we live in today. It's more than just spotting fake news. It's about understanding how the media works, how stories are shaped, and how our own biases affect the way we understand things.
Exactly. It's about becoming smart consumers of information, taking the time to see things from different angles and questioning what we read and hear, even if it's from sources we usually trust.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more I think this whole Politico thing, it's not just a political story or a media scandal. It's like a small example of the big problems we're facing as a society.
It really is. It's about how the media is changing, the rise of all this misinformation, and how people just don't trust institutions anymore. It's a symptom of a much bigger problem, and we all need to work together to fix it.
It brings up such important questions. How do we support good journalism in a time when everyone's overwhelmed with information? It's so easy to get caught up in the hype and the clickbait headlines. But we need to remember real journalism, the kind that informs us and holds those in power accountable. It takes time, effort, and money.
It reminds us that we can't just sit back and take in information passively. We have to actively engage with the news, support reliable sources, and demand better from the media as a whole.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, think about this. What can you do to support good journalism and stop the spread of misinformation? It doesn't have to be anything huge. Even small things can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to a local paper, fact-check things before you share them online, or have respectful conversations with people who have different views.
Every little thing helps. We all need to be more informed and careful about the information we consume and share. Because at the end of the day, an informed society depends on us taking responsibility for the information we choose to believe and spread.
So stay curious, stay critical, and stay engaged. The truth is out there, but it's our job to find it, defend it, and make sure everyone can access it.
Thanks for joining us for this part of the deep dive, everybody. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep questioning the world around you.
You know, it really makes you think about the position news orgs are in these days, right? They're trying to keep things running, but they've got to provide a public service too. Tough balance.
Yeah, totally. And if all these subscriptions from the government are suddenly suspect, it makes you wonder how they're supposed to, pay their bills.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the quality of the news?
It's a complicated situation. We're seeing the traditional ways journalism makes money. Well, they're struggling. Print subscriptions are going down, and it's so hard to make money online. People expect to get their news for free, but good journalism, it costs money to produce that.
Exactly. Somebody has to pay the reporters, the editors, the fact checkers, everybody who works to get the news out there. And that's where those specialized services come in, right?
Mm.
Like Politico Pro. In-depth reports, analysis, targeted to specific people.
Right. These subscriptions can be a lifeline. It lets news orgs put money back into good journalism, those deep investigations and analysis.
But even those models, they can become targets like we saw with Politico, it seems like. Everything can be twisted to fit some narrative these days.
It's just the way it is now, isn't it? We're flooded with information, echo chambers on social media, and politics are so divided, it's tough to figure out what's real anymore.
Okay, so we talked about the challenges news orgs are facing, this misinformation problem, and how important media literacy is. But let's go back to Politico for a sec. What could really happen because of all of this for them and for other news outlets?
Well, for Politico, there's the whole reputation thing. Anytime you're caught up in a controversy like this, even if the claims were false, it can stick with people.
Right, like they say, mud sticks. But what about the bigger picture? Think this will scare off some government agencies, make them less likely to subscribe in the future?
It's possible, yeah. This whole thing could make them a lot more cautious about spending money on news subscriptions, even the ones that are totally legit and helpful to their work.
And that would be a huge loss, honestly, because those subscriptions are so important, like we've said. They help fund the good reporting that we all need.
Absolutely. It's kind of a paradox, though, right? We need reliable news to keep those in power in check and inform the public. But then, giving them money for it, even through normal subscriptions, suddenly becomes controversial.
Yeah, feels like a catch-22.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? How do we make sure that news organizations have the money they need to do their job, but also keep things transparent and accountable?
I think a good starting point is having a more nuanced conversation about what journalism means in a democracy. It can't be all about entertainment and clickbait. It's got to be about informing the public, holding those in power accountable, and making sure different voices are heard.
Yes. And that means we need to see the value in deep reporting, investigations, and real analysis, even if we have to pay for it. We can't expect that kind of quality for free.
Exactly. And there are different ways to invest in it. Subscribe to a news organization you trust, donate to a nonprofit news outlet, or even just be more aware of where you're getting your news from.
Yes.
Support the places that value accuracy and good reporting.
And it's not just on individuals, right? The government and those bigger institutions have a role to play here, too.
Oh, definitely. Public media needs that government funding, and it's got to be protected and used the right way. And we've got to find ways to support local journalism, too. It's been struggling.
Local journalism is so vital. It's what keeps our communities connected and holds those local officials accountable. It's how we know what's going on right where we live.
Totally agree. And besides funding, media literacy education is huge, too. We got to give people the tools to analyze what they're reading, spot biases, and just make sense of the online news landscape.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but it can't be stressed enough. Media literacy is essential these days. It's about more than just spotting fake news. It's about knowing how the whole media system works, how narratives are shaped, and how our own biases play into it.
It's about becoming smarter about the info we take in. Taking the time to think about things from different angles, question things, even stuff from sources we usually trust.
The more we talk about this, the more I realize this whole Politico situation, it's bigger than just a political drama or some media mess. It's a little snapshot of what's wrong with our society right now.
I think so, too. It shows us how the media is changing, how misinformation is spreading, and how people just don't have faith in institutions anymore. It's all connected. And it's up to all of us to find solutions.
It makes us ask some tough questions. How do we support good journalism when there's so much information coming at us all the time? It's so easy to get sucked into the clickbait and the crazy headlines. But real journalism, the kind that helps us make informed decisions and keeps those in power accountable, that takes time and effort and money.
It's a reminder. We can't just be passive. We have to be active, engaged with the news, supporting the good sources, and demanding better from the whole media system.
So before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, think about this. What can you do to help? To support good journalism and stop the spread of misinformation? It doesn't have to be something big. Little things can make a difference.
Yeah, like subscribe to a local newspaper. Fact check something before you share it. Have a conversation, a respectful one with someone who has a different point of view.
Even the smallest actions add up. We all need to be more mindful of the info we consume and share. An informed society. It relies on us taking responsibility for what we choose to believe.
So stay curious, stay critical, and stay engaged. The truth is out there, but we have to be the ones to find it, to fight for it, and to make sure everyone can access it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but stick with us. We've got more to dig into on this story. All right, we're back. So where do we go from here? How do we actually make things better, support good journalism, make sure it can actually thrive? What are your thoughts?
Well, there's no easy answer, right? It's a huge problem. But I think a big part of it is we got to start valuing reliable information again. We've gotten so used to getting our news online for free, but we need to remember, good journalism, it takes time, resources, skilled people to make that happen.
Yeah, it's like anything else. You get what you pay for. If we want those deep dives, the fact-checking, the real analysis, we got to be willing to pay for it.
Exactly. And there are a bunch of ways to do that. Subscribe to a newspaper you trust, donate to a nonprofit news organization, or even just be more conscious of where you get your news from. Support the places that value the truth and good reporting.
And it's not just about what individuals do either, right? There's got to be a role for the government and bigger institutions, too.
Definitely. Public media relies on government funding. That funding has to be protected and used the right way. And we need to find ways to help local journalism, too. It's been hit really hard.
Local news is so important. It's what keeps our communities together, keeps those local officials accountable. It's how we know what's happening right where we live.
Couldn't agree more. And on top of funding, media literacy education is so important. We got to give people the tools to think critically about information, recognize biases, and just navigate this crazy online news world.
We talked about that earlier, but it can't be overstated. Media literacy is everything these days. It's not just about spotting fake news. It's understanding how the media actually works, how those narratives are built, and how even our own biases affect what we believe.
It's about being smarter consumers of information, taking time to see all sides of an issue, questioning what we see and hear, even if it's from sources we usually trust.
You know, as we're talking about this, it hits me that this whole Politico story, it's not just about politics or the media. It's like a reflection of so many of the bigger problems we're facing as a society.
I agree. It's a sign of the times, how the media is changing, the rise of misinformation, how people have lost faith in institutions. It's all tied together, and it's on all of us to try to fix it.
It really makes you think about, how do we value good journalism, support it, when we're constantly bombarded with information? So easy to get caught up in the clickbait and the sensational stuff, but real journalism, the stuff that keeps us informed, that holds those in power accountable, that takes time, dedication, resources.
We need to remember, we can't just sit back and let the information wash over us. We got to actively engage with the news, support the good sources, and demand better from the media as a whole.
So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What can you do in your own life to support real journalism, to fight against misinformation? It doesn't have to be some big, grand thing. Even the small things count.
Yeah, it could be subscribing to your local paper, fact-checking something before you share it, or even just having a conversation, a respectful one, with someone who sees things differently than you do.
It all adds up. The more informed and mindful we all are about the information we're consuming and sharing, the better off we'll all be.
So stay curious, stay critical, and stay engaged. The truth is out there, but we have to fight for it. We have to be the ones to find it, protect it, and make sure everyone has access to it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep questioning the world around you.